Alright guys, welcome back. Today we got a big update on the Lincoln front end engine tear down. Let's get going. Okay, moving along with the update here. I got the alternator out and both brackets that hold it on, which I'll show you those here in a minute. First bolt that I lost to the top one here for the alternator, I have no idea what the hell I did with it. Here's the bottom one and the caps that go over the wiring. I haven't disconnected the wiring yet, but look at all that gunk on there. Gotta clean all that up. Next thing I'm trying to do is get the water pump off because I'm gonna replace that too, but also I'm trying to get better access to the fuel pump. As you can see over there, the AC clutch pulley has been removed. We'll go over to the other side here. We'll take a look. Now that that thing has been removed, you can see a lot better access to where that fuel pump was. And so I think once that water pump's off, that's probably a piece of shit anyway, we'll have no problem accessing the fuel pump area to clean that up really well. And under the hood so far, that's all we got that's new, is that AC clutch pulley is removed and the alternator and brackets are removed. And we're going to be going ahead and going at the water pump next, and then probably the power steering pump as well. This isn't necessarily part of the Lincoln video, but I went on ahead and put a brand new trailer jack on this thing, because the old one was kind of a piece of shit, and this trailer's leaning because the tires have kind of sunk into the ground since it's rained several times since I put this trailer here. So that kind of sucks, but I can show you what the other one looked like. I had all these bricks right here kind of stacked on top of each other, and then I didn't have a plate or a caster or anything on the bottom of this thing. And on top of that, it didn't really want to lift very well either. It was very hard to get it to turn. So for safety reasons, and because I'm gonna eventually be fixing this trailer up as well, I just went on ahead and put a new trailer jack on there. It cost about 65 bucks plus tax. The plate was sold separately, got it at Harbor Freight. Pretty much matched the old one exactly. The old one was a 5,000 pound capacity, and this one is as well, but it's nice and fresh. I would have liked to have replaced those bolts, but everything on here, just like on the Lincoln, is standard size, and I really only have metric bolts. And if they've been in there for 50 years and they came out that easily, it wasn't that difficult to get them out. I sprayed them all down with some penetrating oil and put them back in there. Once I get to painting up this trailer and everything, I may remove that again and get under there better with everything and get some new bolts for it, because eventually this trailer is going to be black, so I'm probably going to take that off again eventually. But for now, that's what we got. And it really pushed that brick into the ground from sitting there for a while. That was the bottom brick, and those other ones were on top. Like I said, not really related to the Lincoln, but kind of is related at the same time, since it's what's holding this bad boy up. Anyways, on with the car. Alright guys, today we got our power steering filter kit with the new filter and the cover gasket here. Here is our old 50-year-old filter, probably never been replaced, and the new one appears to be slightly larger in diameter, but I believe that it's seems to be built pretty well, and I believe it's going to be an upgrade. And I wanted to show you guys this because I don't think I showed myself taking it apart. So here's our bottom section all cleaned up and painted, and the return line here comes up through that hole, and it must go through the filter in order to get out the bottom here. So we're going to go ahead and start to install our filter kit that we got here. First, we're going to take the filter and we're going to put it on down just like that. Then we're going to take this piece, we're going to put it on right over it. And to be honest with you, that piece was kind of stuck in the old filter. I didn't even honestly know that it was a separate piece. So then we take our spring. I'm going to go ahead and put that right on top, trying to make sure that it's centered in that piece there that we just put over the filter. And now we want to take this washer and then push down with the washer over the spring. You're going to push it down pretty far, and then we take this clip and we put it on over this groove. There we go, I got it snapped in. Go ahead and straighten that out a little bit. And that's kind of what it should look like when it's installed there. Not too difficult of a task, if I do say so myself. It can definitely be done inside of the vehicle as well, but since I had my stuff all taken apart, figured I might as well. So now we're going to go ahead and try to pry our old gasket out. Try not to gouge it too much. Now that we got up under there, we'll just work our way around like it's a old tire. Now we got it worked around a little bit. Oh, come on. Come on now. Oh, we had it. We were totally there. Oh. There we go. I got it this time. We'll go ahead and pull that out. Now it's kind of in there pretty well. Now that that's out of there, I'm going to clean that gunk off, and we're going to put the new one on. Get this all wiped up real good. Okay, and here's our brand new one. Should hopefully fit right into place here. Right on, very nice. And now, I need to figure out which way the dipstick tube is supposed to face when I put it back on, because I think that there's 360 degrees that you can put this thing on there, and I want to check and make sure that I'm putting it on the proper way. So give me just a moment, and we'll be right back with that. Alright, so I had to check, there's this guy on YouTube, Andy's Auto, and he's got some pretty good videos about these 1969 Lincoln Continentals. So I went and checked one of his old videos when they were working under the hood, and could see the direction of it. Just kidding, obviously I'm watching one of my own old videos, but when I was working up under the hood, I could tell that the little divot here, I guess you want to call it, was pretty much diagonal with the bracket, and this thing's on this side. And then, of course, we want to make sure that it's actually pushed over all the way, because it'll go into that stud, but you want to make sure that it's connected, or it's pushed down all the way around. Then there is a rubberized washer that goes on top, and then there's a nut. And I just painted those not long ago, but I think they should be dry enough. You know, paint doesn't want to stick to this old stuff too well, but that's all right. Doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and put this on there now. I think they're supposed to just push on or thread on. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's a little bit of both. It's threading on. I don't know if that's by design or if that's just because it's kind of worn in. That seems to be on there pretty good. And then now we'll take our nut. We'll put that on top as well. Very nice. And then I believe that that was a 7/16. So bear with me for a sec while I find that. I think that's it right here. So we'll just carefully tighten that down. We'll go one more just for good measure. That seems good enough to me. And thankfully, it doesn't look like I wiped off too much of the black paint. I just didn't want it to be like shiny and then everything else is black. So I think that that'll be good enough for now. May end up having to wipe off this top a little bit. I'm sure I got some damn fingerprints on it. Maybe the bottom area as well. But besides that, I think this bad boy's pretty much done and ready to go back onto the car. But since I'm going to be addressing the power steering pump as well, what I may do after I put the fuel pump back in is go ahead and put this back into the vehicle, but cap off the in and out, and then just put a plastic bag around it so it doesn't get all dusty and dirty until I'm ready to hook it back up. The power steering pump rebuild's not going to be an issue as far as finding the parts, but the hoses and lines for this system are somewhat difficult to find, unfortunately. So I may have to hold off on hooking this back up longer than I'd like to, but this thing is totally finished up and ready to install in the vehicle. Also, just want to throw this out there. Here's the dipstick for it, and I may eventually try to paint the top part of it some kind of chrome color, because I think that would look nice. I haven't decided exactly what I want to do yet. Part of me wants to paint it the same color as that. Another part of me wants to paint it black. Another part of me wants it to be chrome, because I think that would look kind of good. But I'm really not too sure. Chrome would cost extra money. I already have the black and that kind of paint. So I may just say screw it and paint it black. But for now, I think I'm just going to leave it alone and put it back inside. Said screw it and did it in the aluminum gray. I think that'll be good enough. We also got the fan painted. Looks like shit. Didn't really stick that well, but it still, believe it or not, looks better than it did before. Got the clutch removed. Probably going to go ahead and replace that. Here's the AC clutch. That bolt on there is the one that held it on, and then I basically just screwed that bolt in while using a holding tool in 2 of those holes to hold this still, and that pulled it right off. Went ahead and removed the tensioner pulley as well. We got the water pump pulley, and it's got a piece of an old belt stuck in it. We got the bolts for that. AC also has a piece of the old belt stuck in it. Where's it at? Right there. So that's going to be kind of a pain in the ass to get those out for sure. And then here's the alternator brackets. The one that goes in the slotted hole is the one I think I lost, but I don't think it's a big deal. I can definitely find something to replace it with. These two go through the water pump and the timing cover, I believe, and those were kind of a bitch to get out. You can see there's all kinds of rust up in those threads. So hopefully that was just in the area that this part of the bolt was in, and as I was twisting it, it just grabbed some rust. I hope that's not from the threaded hole in the block. But this is kind of where we're at right now with stuff we got taken apart. We still got all that old stuff for the fuel line project and the radiator and everything else. Here's that long fuel line still. We're still waiting to pick up a few more parts. Doing it as I can as the money comes in. I still got this fuel pump coming. It should be here on Monday or Tuesday. And I also ordered a filler neck as well. So besides some pour 15 around the gas tank area, once I get that filler neck, I should be pretty much ready to put that tank back in. Alright guys, we got the water pump off. This bracket is kind of in the way. It goes on the bottom of the AC compressor. Unfortunately, 4 of the bolts that go in here broke off. Kind of expected something to break along the way, but I was really hoping it wasn't going to be on the engine. And even worse, look at that, guys. Oh man, look behind this water pump. Wow. Disgusting. What is this? Like, and then there's so much shit up here too. Oh my god. That's insane, guys. So that's gonna have to get cleaned out extremely good. I'm almost kind of wondering if we'll ever get it back to how it should be unless we replace all of this stuff. Man, does not look good at all. But maybe with some water, some brake cleaner, maybe a little bit of pressurized water, we can get her cleaned up. But just wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at here. Got to get all these broken bolts out, and that's going to be really fun. But otherwise, stay tuned. Okay, so I went ahead and took the garden hose and I sprayed this out the best that I could in both sides. I may take my borescope and look in there and see what it looks like, but honestly, mostly just fresh coolant came out. So I think most of the sediment or corrosion or debris or whatever you want to call it was just in that lower water pump area or in the timing cover. So I think we might be okay. Once we get it all filled back up, started up and running, I'm definitely going to put a coolant flush chemical inside of it and flush it out, drain it, and refill it back up. And I might do that at least 2 or 3 times to get it cleaned out. But for now, we're going ahead and going to pull the crank pulley. 1, because I need to rebuild the power steering pump, but 2, we may end up needing to pull this timing cover off in order to get them snapped bolts out a little easier. Another issue I saw is this little tube coming out of the intake has some pinholes and like a crack in it. So I might try to sand that down a little bit and put a thin layer of JB weld on top of it and call it good. Because otherwise I'm going to have to replace the entire intake. The new ones come with a hole right there, just like this spot next to it, where you can thread something into it. But for some reason on the original, that piece is integrated into the intake. And I'm pretty sure, never mind, it goes from the heads to the water pump. So it is sort of important, but I feel like if I cover them holes up with some JB weld, it'll probably be alright. It's not weak enough to where it's gonna like break off or anything. It still seems fairly sturdy, so that's probably what I'm gonna do. Because I mean, shit guys, I've already took so much stuff apart on here. We already have so many parts we need to buy. I'm kind of trying to salvage what I can on here. I mainly just want to get this engine running and get the brakes working so I can back it off of this trailer and then work on it like a regular car. In the front, probably in the driveway somewhere. But anyway, for now, we got this crank pulley coming off. Got my puller on it, and it's coming. You can see it. We're just slowly working it off here. There we go. Nearly there. Getting there, getting there. Any minute now. Sorry guys, need my other hand for a second to make sure that guy doesn't fall. And this, okay, that key's nice and stuck in there, that's fine. But this is our crankshaft driven power steering pump. So we're gonna be taking that off here soon as well. Alright guys, moving right along. This here is the plate that goes on the back of the water pump between the timing cover and the water pump. Here's our AC clutch, our fan clutch, our old fuel pump. New one should be here in a couple days. We finally got the power steering pump off. Some of that old Ford blue shining through, but yeah, that power steering pump was most definitely leaking. So I got to get a rebuild kit on order for that. But we finally got that off, and I'll show you guys tomorrow what that looks like inside the engine bay with all of that removed. Got the alternator brackets out. This bracket goes on the AC compressor, and it kind of covers up some of the water pump bolts, or at least a couple of them. That's our crank bolt. I want to just hit the front of that with some paint. Got the water pump pulley done. It's looking halfway decent. Much better than it did. Did our crank pulley too. Got that key out as well, sitting on top of there. We also got our fuel filter. So we'll be putting this in once we get to the carburetor rebuild, but that screws right into the carburetor. That spot where the red cap is, it just screws into the carburetor, and then the fuel line from the pump connects with the new hose they sent us with. Here's that radiator cover, showed you guys already. We got our power steering reservoir all finished up, new filter inside, ready to be reinstalled. Here's our fan. Went ahead and wiped down and cleaned up the fan shroud to the best of my ability. Behind here, we still got all them bolts and covers and stuff for the fuel line. Of course, we still have that fuel line sitting here because I got to buy a new one of those. So we got some parts restored and ready to go back on the vehicle, but we're still waiting on a few more as well. Here's the bolts that go on the cover and hold that in. Got those hit with just a little bit of paint. So tomorrow I'm going to go outside and kind of show you what the engine bay looks like, what we're working with now. Still need to get those bolts out of the timing cover, but I think in order to do that I'm going to have to remove it so I can get better access to everything. But we're definitely starting to get a huge pile of parts here. There's some stuff that we're done with, and here's some stuff that we still need to do something with. So we are definitely making some progress, but it's slow progress. Another thing I want to throw in there, this is the belt tensioner and pulley for the air conditioning system for the AC belt. And as far as I can tell, and I saw a diagram for it, but I believe this cap is supposed to come off, and then I can pull the pulley off, and then I can reuse that bottom section. But if you look real close in there, you can kind of tell that that bearing is leaking a little bit, and I just feel like there's a high chance that that's going to fail. And you can see where I've been digging in at it, trying to hit it with a hammer and a screwdriver to get up under there and pry it out. And like I said, I saw a diagram, and it shows that that's supposed to come out of there, but I cannot for the life of me get that out. So I'm going to have to get that out, replace the bearing, and then paint this whole piece and fix it up. This piece you absolutely cannot find online for sale anywhere, unfortunately. So going to have to get that out of there somehow, and then hopefully I can just get a couple bearings or a bearing or whatever at the local hardware store and press it in. Just a quick update on that. My buddy actually found one of those by looking it up under a Boss 429 Mustang, so I do have one of those on order now as well. And that's it right there. We can see the timing chain. I got the timing cover off finally. Most of the bolts that hold the water pump on are also bolts that holds the timing cover on. Take note on the right side there's that extra hole above the circular hole. We're going to take a look at something here in a second. And then that little cam eccentric on front of the gear of the camshaft, this one here, that's the one that runs the fuel pump. So that's kind of interesting. And we still got our alternator over there. I need to disconnect that. I'm going to go ahead and grab these couple tools out of here, and I'll take you down to the basement. We'll take a look at that timing cover. Okay, so this is our timing cover here. Besides the bolts that go around the water pump, which I'd already taken out and removed, there was 2 more over here, 2 more on the bottom, 1 more on the bottom on this side, and 1 more bolt, or no, 2 more bolts as well. So there was 7 more bolts I had to remove to fully remove the timing cover, and it's looking pretty rough for sure. But as you can see, there's an extra hole there, and on the new timing covers, at least for the newer versions of this engine, that hole is not there at all. However, they also don't have the bolts down here, or the threaded holes rather, for the power steering pump to mount. So I literally can't even get a new one of these unless one comes up for sale. So I looked and looked. I found some pictures of some other ones off of this vehicle, and it does look like that hole is supposed to be there on this particular timing cover. It is kind of weird how it looks like something's kind of broke off like that, but if there's a hole in the engine in the same shape as that, and the hole is that perfect as far as like the straight lines and everything, I feel like that's definitely supposed to be there. I don't think it would have broke out that perfectly straight like that. So I got kind of worried for a second, thinking that I was going to have to replace this, but I think we're good. I'm going to fire up the pressure washer in the next day or two, and we're going to clean this up real good and paint it Old Ford blue. And that's going to be the end of this video. Please stay tuned for the next update, as I'll be putting the gas tank and filler neck back in. We'll be doing that very, very soon, probably a few more days, and you'll be seeing that posted. Otherwise, please like, comment, and especially subscribe, and I will see you next time.